I'm John Scott, and we're in San Francisco today. You might walk down the street in the city and find a vehicle with this sign on it. Borrow my car. Cars by the hour, gas and insurance included. It's an almost one-of-a-kind concept in America. It's in Boston, now it's in San Francisco. We're going to meet Shelby Clark. He's the man behind RelayRides. It's a neighbor-to-neighbor car-sharing service. Shelby Clark and Homegrown CEO coming up next after the beat. Shelby Clark, the Chief Community Officer. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, very nice to meet you too. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us to the office.
Absolutely.
So, you did a little research about people and cars, and you discovered that 8% of cars are being driven all the time by everyone.
Well, so the statistic is actually that the average car is driven 8% of the time.
So 92% of the time, your car is not being used.
It's just sitting around. Right.
And as you drove by cars and looked at cars and thought about it, you said to yourself,
I got frustrated. You know, I was a very loyal Zipcar member. I still love Zipcar, but you know, I found myself biking 2.5 miles to the closest available Zipcar because everything in me was booked. Mm-hmm. And out of sheer frustration, it was a terrible Boston winter day. In late 2008, you know, there was sleet and snow coming from every direction, and I just cold. It was like, why can't I take that car?
And that's how RelayRides is born.
Right.
So for those that aren't familiar, kind of tell us the concept, which is a little bit different than the car sharing service that you used to use.
Sure. So we call RelayRides neighbor-to-neighbor car sharing. So peer-to-peer is probably for tech geeks, obviously familiar with the
Works
phrase.
For music.
Yeah. But we call it neighbor-to-neighbor. I'll explain why in a little bit. But what's RelayRides is neighbor-to-neighbor car sharing. So essentially we are, you can think of this as crowdsourced Zipcar. So from the perspective of a borrower, we're very similar. We have a website where you can come and you sign up. Once you're an approved member, we issue you a smart card, and then you can search for cars that are located all throughout your neighborhood. And you can reserve them by the hour, by the day. So we got SUVs and trucks and convertibles and hybrids. Whatever you want, you got. And
I'm oversimplifying only because people that aren't familiar want to be able to. So I have a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck, and I'd like to participate. Yep. I go to the website, I get my card, and then people know where my Tacoma is.
Well, so
sort of.
Well, so I was first talking about the borrowers. Mm-hmm. So you definitely don't have to contribute a car in order to borrow cars. So from the perspective of a borrower, it's similar to Zipcar. But you're right. So the main difference is that we don't own any cars. Mm-hmm. So our RelayRides is a platform to make it safe and convenient for people to rent out their own cars to their neighbors when they're not using them personally. Mm-hmm. So I guess the less important things to note about if you're a car owner, you get to specify how your car is used. So you get to specify the price for your car, where it's located, and also the schedule for your car to be available. And then we step in with $1 million insurance policy, so it covers the borrower during the reservation period. And you make 65%. So we take 15% for transaction fee and 20% for insurance. And every month we see people making over $1,000. The average car brings in over $250 a month.
Really?
So it's real money in real people's pockets. And what's really cool is it's one neighbor sort of supporting another neighbor. We've created this really strong symbiotic ecosystem of neighbors helping neighbors, and it's really cool to see.
And you're in Boston and in San Francisco now. You have about 100 cars available, right? And who knows how many thousands of potential borrowers.
Yep.
So you've been in business for how long?
I came up with the idea around 2.5 years ago, and we've been live for about a year.
Mm-hmm. Now that you've done this for a while, and this is your first entrepreneurial venture.
It's the first one on my own. So I've been involved
of scale.
I've been involved with other startups before, but this is the first one that I founded.
Mm-hmm. And it could be positive or it could be negative. But what's the biggest surprise you had? Biggest challenge when you finally went live?
I think before starting RelayRides, people talked about the emotional roller coaster of starting a company, and I heard what they said. I knew that there are big peaks and there are big valleys, and I just had no idea how real that, how true it really was. And so, I've found it has been an emotional roller coaster for the past 2.5 years. There are times when it didn't look like it was going to work. We weren't going to get insurance, and we needed, should we walk away? Should we fold this all up? And you put in so much energy, and there are times when you launch and you see the first car drive off, and just this incredible feeling of wow, I can't believe that actually worked. It's all this thing that us and our team, we made that happen. And so you have these incredible highs, and you have these pretty low lows, and the velocity with which you can go from one to the other, and the intensity of the peaks and the valleys is really quite dramatic. And overall, I would say it's been a really positive experience. RelayRides is something that I'm really passionate about. I think that it's going to be a great business, and I think that it could be a fantastic economic opportunity. But at the end of the day, I think that society will be way better off if we succeed.
He went to Harvard Business School. No dummies sitting here to my right. But the academic study of how to run a business, then putting that on a real life template. It's good to have that background knowledge because the financials are so important when you're starting out. But how did the classroom experience what you anticipated it might be like? How was it different from real world?
Well, I mean, they're two totally different things, right? So, I think that business school was a great experience. I think that it definitely helped me to succeed. If nothing else, it gave me 2 years in a really fertile environment surrounded by smart people where I could just really invest in something. But I learned a lot about sort of the functional different areas, which was very helpful, but not something you couldn't do on the fly. One of the biggest things that I think business school taught me was the ability to go toe-to-toe with anybody in a debate, is to stand up really passionately for what I believe in and speak up whenever I see something that I don't agree with or I think is wrong. And sometimes I ruffle some feathers. But that sort of discourse and that regular debate has made me really comfortable going in and talking to people who don't necessarily share my view and saying, this is why I feel the way I feel.
Well, and the wave of inertia from just about everyone in your universe, it could overwhelm you. If you listened to all the no's, no one would ever start anything.
That's very true.
So sometimes you just have to go.
Yep.
You can find out more about Shelby's company at RelayRides.com. I wish you the best of luck. You're very excited about your venture.
Thank you very much.
I hope it works out well for you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And we just might swing back here next week with another new episode, and we hope you'll join us then. From KCBS, All News 740 and FM 1069 and CBS Interactive, we'll see you next time on Homegrown CEO.